Thank you for joining us. I'm Dr. Gina Hurley with the Barnstable Public Schools. Today we are continuing our video series on educating the whole child. We are here at Barnstable United Elementary School with Dr. Valerie Smith, our assistant principal, and Mr. Dylan Bissonnette, our social emotional academic development coach. Well, thank you for joining us. Val, I'd like to start with you. Last year, a team of teachers were on a committee here at Barnstable United and decided that they needed to have a social, emotional, and academic development coach. And I'd like you to talk to us a little bit about why the teachers felt that they needed that position and why it was important.
So the committee met to discuss a number of areas for improvement, and one of the things that came to light was teachers feeling for the need for some support with behaviors in the building. And from that point, simultaneously, we were also implementing the new second step curriculum for social emotional learning. So it made a lot of sense to dovetail the position so that that person would support not only the implementation but also the professional development of teachers with that new curriculum, as well as the area of supporting teachers with new strategies, of implementing new strategies in the classroom with supports for students who are coming from different experiences.
And why do you think it's important to include that as part of the school day? Basically, why is it just as important as other academics?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. So I think that it's really come to light over the last several years that students are coming with a variety of different skills with social and emotional development, which is impacting the classroom. So students' ability to navigate social situations, whether it be to empathize or to problem solve, is an area where they need explicit instruction. So by adopting the second step program, we can ensure that every student in the building, and luckily it's being adopted at the lower elementary schools as well, so eventually coming up through that will have a common language and common strategies to help students navigate those situations. When they find success in that, then that's when they can really plug in academically and enjoy the fruits of that labor in the academic setting. Because a lot of times when students are in a situation where they're struggling socially, it really does have a very large and lasting impact on their academic development.
How does it benefit the teacher, though, to have those skills taught and have students acquire those skills?
Once the student is able to plug in socially and emotionally, the ability for a teacher to instruct without interruptions grows greatly. So the teacher is able to focus on the delivery of academic instruction because they've already laid the groundwork for the social emotional instruction.
Dylan, I'd like to turn to you now because you are in the position of the SEED coach, social emotional academic development coach. It's a unique position, the first one in the district. So I'd like to start with what interested you about the position and why did you apply?
My education is as a school counselor, so I worked very closely with students on social emotional learning, and what really struck me was the idea of instilling social emotional learning across the entire school. When I was reading the posting, I was really excited because that's really, really important work, and I think as Dr. Smith touched on, it is so important for our kids to be able to navigate social situations and manage their emotions so that they can acquire knowledge while they're here and access our curriculum.
We have had previous conversations, you and I, about the role of the school counselor, and then that oftentimes it is more of a reactive, responsive type of role. So in your current role, how does that differ from more of a reactive role?
I love it, to be honest, because I think as a school counselor, anybody who's listening to this and works in the school counseling field understands how big the need is. And you're only one or two people in a building. So the idea of being proactive instead of reactive is a really, really awesome thing to do, because a lot of times situations that come up or social conflicts can be avoided if we're giving those kids those skills to navigate that. And maybe it's something as simple as them self-advocating when something's going on, but at least situations aren't escalating and at least kids feel empowered. It also makes social emotional learning everyone's job and everyone's goal. So as opposed to not just having a few counselors that are really pushing it, it's an entire climate.
What does that actually mean, though? What are you doing on a day-to-day basis?
So on a day-to-day basis, our general overall strategy is implementing our second step curriculum. And obviously that's a new program for us. So on a day-to-day basis, I'm working closely with teachers to help them deliver the curriculum. On a day-to-day basis, I'm going and meeting with teachers during their preps to talk about the lessons, to help them plan. I'm also going in and modeling how to run the lessons, maybe teaching a part of it, letting the teachers teach some of it, and then also offering feedback, as well as working with the teachers on specific, if they're having a specific issue in their classroom, working with them and talking it through and helping them identify some solutions that they can put into their classroom, put into their practice to help them. I think the most important role for me is I'm a support for the teachers. I'm here to help them. I'm here to help them navigate through, just as teaching math is difficult, teaching social emotional learning is difficult. So I'm here to help them, give them the opportunity to talk things out and help them think about things a little bit more, and it really help them implement strategies to help their students.
Each school has developed a behavior expectation matrix as part of our positive behavioral supports. Can you speak to how you are supporting teachers in teaching the expectations in the matrix?
Our matrix is what we want our students to be exhibiting. That's what we want to be seeing in our kids. So as I work with our teachers and as the teachers teach their lessons, we're always constantly wanting to look back and say, how does this line up with our matrix? What skill are we building, and how does it relate to what our matrix is? My goal is to help the teachers realize how that plays out in the classroom. What does being an active listener look like? And how are we building that skill? What lesson is building that skill? So my goal is to kind of have that bigger picture in mind. Because if we have our students following that matrix and really understand what that matrix is, then it gives them a sense of understanding what the expectations in the classroom, and I think that takes away a lot of their own stress because they know what to do and they know what's expected.
And another step that we took in the district that also occurred here at BUE was our universal screener, our social emotional learning screener, that took place in the fall and will take place again in the spring, where all students are assessed by their teacher in their social emotional skills. So can you tell me how that screener has helped to educate the whole child here at BUES?
It's really cool, I'll say, for lack of a better term, but it is a really cool thing that we're doing here. All our students were screened. Every single one, 862 students had a screening. And what that allowed us to do is to look at our students and identify the needs of our students specifically. So we were able to look at a group of students that fell in a range of needing supports for their social emotional learning, and we could look at them and figure out how we can get them that support. We were able to and now create targeted interventions for these students. So it gives us our ability to be very intentional with our interventions. It allows us to develop very targeted interventions for our students, and more importantly, allows us to use our resources effectively. Whereas before, maybe a teacher's just saying, this kid's not behaving, I don't know what to do, help me. But now it gives them the tool to have the conversation. You know what, this student is really struggling with personal responsibility or a certain thing, and then that allows me the ability to come in and say, hey, let's think about how we can work on and implement strategies to support that skill in your classroom. It's really, really awesome, and I think it's a really great tool that I wish everybody could use, because I think it really has transformed how we think about social emotional functioning.
Val, I'd like to turn back to you. Since Barnstable United is the first school in the district to have a SEED coach, I was hoping you could tell us what you've seen the benefits of the position are.
The benefits of Dylan's position have been numerous. Our teachers' time and energy are a very valuable resource, and they spend countless hours planning out the academic portion of their day. But I think having a dedicated person who's focused on the social emotional learning, and additionally to the new curriculum of Second Step, has been really, really important, because they get that professional development. They know that they can rely on Dylan if they're in a sticky spot to kind of bounce some ideas off, or as he mentioned, reference the DESA screener to see where they might pinpoint targeted assistance for a student. I think we're moving forward and growing in that area. Moving forward in the future, I see this role being really, really critical to making sure that as students enter this building, it's obviously a large transition into the fourth grade from multiple lower elementary schools, that we really get to know the students through that lens. Typically in the past, it's been more through the academic lens. So I think having that balance of the social, emotional, and the academic is going to be really, really important for students to gain the skills they'll need, as I said, to solve problems, to get along with peers, to advocate, as Dylan said, or assert themselves when they need to. And all of those skills build the framework for a successful student, and moving forward into their adult life. Those are really critical and essential skills.
So you mentioned a little bit about professional development, and Dylan, I'd like to ask you, what types of professional development have you done with staff this year?
So initially, when I first began the position at the beginning of the year, we did a large-scale professional development for our teachers, looking at our data really. Once we looked at it, having them understand and see how our students fell within the needs range, or what students needed those interventions. Or our last professional development was, here's our data, here's our resources. Now, how can we implement them and make good use of them?
The data that we're using now is really helping to identify what the area of need is in that social emotional profile. Self-awareness, social awareness, responsible decision making, those types of areas, and then we can actually target the intervention to those areas.
Which is really cool. It just gives us another piece of information that we didn't have before. So it's really cool, and it gives us an opportunity to have. It shifts our conversations and makes our conversations very intentional, because as you say, teachers' time is valuable. We all have a lot going on, a lot of students in our school, so it allows us to just any kind of more information or data we have is very, very helpful.
Well, this has been a great conversation. Thank you both. Is there anything else you'd like to add so that the public knows about the work that you're doing here at Barnstable United?
I've seen a really important shift in having the teachers become an integral part of this work this year, and I think that's very empowering for teachers. Teachers spend the majority of the day with the students, yet somehow in the past some of these social emotional skills were more outsourced to some of the school counselors, and I think that teachers really deserve the opportunity to have that rapport with students, to work out some of those social emotional kinks or practice some of those skills in the moment. I think that's really, really important for students and for teachers, and the culture that it creates between them and among them. So I think that's been one of the really huge things that I've seen a shift.
And I think with my work as a coach, as a really curriculum coach or seat coach, I have so many opportunities to provide professional development on a day-to-day basis with our teachers. I'm able to go into a classroom during a teacher's prep and talk about things, or I'm able to meet with them in the morning before school starts and talk with them about some different things and give them some feedback, or they can bounce some things off me and we can talk about some strategies. So what's really great is I'm able to be a resource and I'm able to right away. Whereas, when you think of professional development, for a lot of people, it might be 2 or 3 times a year. But with a coaching model, it's every day. And I think, with what Val's saying is how important and powerful the teacher can be. And that just hits on the point of how important it is that we provide the support to them so that they can, because they are the most powerful person and force in their lives for a period of time. So that's a really important job, and it's a really big responsibility. And so I think for me, it's my responsibility is to support them so that they can do that for their kids and their students. That's what gets me up every day and makes me happy to come into work every day, to know that I'm providing them with that support.
Well, that's an excellent point to end on. So thank you both again for your time and for helping us understand what the Seed Coach does here at Barnstable United. And thank you for joining us.